What not to do in Sweden. Avoid these 10 mistakes. Let's look at this one. Let's look at this one.
Swedish people are polite and friendly, and they don't like to make a big fuss. They often smile, but they might still be furious on the inside. This is a list of 10 things that you shouldn't do in Sweden.
Yeah.
So you want to visit the cold north and explore the lovely country of Sweden, but you don't want to make a fool of yourself.
Yes.
I'm here to help you with that. With this simple guide, you can avoid the worst pitfalls when you travel to Sweden. Let's kick things off with buying a round of drinks.
Do people actually want to travel to Sweden?
So you're at a bar with some random Swedish people you've met, and you notice that your glass is empty. You want to be a good chap, so you surprise your new friends by bringing back a pint of beer for everyone at the table. Imagine your surprise when you're not met with cheers and thanks. Instead, you're met with suspicious looks. Buying rounds isn't all that common in Sweden.
No.
Everyone typically buys their own drinks. If you buy a round, every Swede starts to do a mental calculation. We're 5 people at the table. That means I'm gonna have to drink 5 more drinks, and I was planning on going home soon.
Well, it's not really a thing. I would say it's not really a thing to buy rounds for sure. But what I think what usually happens is that someone will be like, you know what, I'll have another cider. I'm gonna go have another drink, and then somebody will be like, maybe 2 more people will be like, maybe they're in the middle of a conversation or something. They're gonna be, oh, I need a piss and I'm gonna get another drink, and they'll be like, oh, can you grab a cider for me? Can you also grab one for me? Yeah, I'll swish you, which is like sending money. We use Swish, which I guess is like Venmo. But like, I think, in my opinion, if somebody like came back with like, while it is uncommon, but if somebody like came back, especially if they're non-Swedish, and that they came back with like, they bought alcohol for everyone, people would probably go like, oh, they would probably be like, oh, how much do I owe you? Or they'll just be like, oh man, that's awesome, thanks, dude. I don't think, would you guys be like with suspicion? I don't know. I feel like most people would be like kind of appreciative, or they would be like, oh, let me pay for it, something like that.
A Swede will feel obligated to pay you back for the drink you bought him. You just wanted to be nice, but instead you accidentally caused him anxiety.
Exactly. Swedes are pretty stingy, I would say. I would say Swedes are very stingy when it comes to money and stuff. It's yeah. Times have been out with people usually one person buys for everyone, so there isn't a lot of people in the queue. And if we want more, we get our orders in and one of us goes up to the bar. Yeah, exactly. Because from like when I've gone out, it's like most of the time like people will be like arrive at the bars maybe at different times, or we order at the same time. But usually I feel like people like even when we've arrived at the bar at the same time, sometimes we usually just like, some people sit down and they want to start talking a little bit, while some other people will be like, yeah, I want to get some ciders, I want to get some beers, yeah. And then like people just walk over, like not usually always at the same time, but like at their own pace. As personally what I've experienced. Yeah, something like that.
Imagine that you're starting a new job at a Swedish company. At the fika break, you start asking people how much money they make. Everyone suddenly looks away and mutters something about a meeting they forgot. You just made a big mistake.
I really wish that this was a thing. Asking people about their
salary is considered a big faux pas in Sweden. Swedish society is rooted in socialism and equality.
Yeah.
Things are changing these days, but it's still considered rude to ask people about their salaries.
It is rude, but I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't, because I feel like that's such... I had conversations, but it took like a little bit of a like... Sometimes you have to always ask like if it's okay. Like you have to have some kind of familiarity with these people, because in my last company, I asked like some people, but I would always be like, if that's okay of you to tell me. But then again, a lot of my people in that company were also non-Swedish, so yeah. It's yeah. I think that salary talk should be like, you should be allowed to talk about it. But then it's also like some people will be like, oh, they feel bad because they make less or they make more, and I guess it's that kind of awkwardness that they want to avoid.
A Swede will happily tell you about their divorce or their mental illnesses, but how much they make, that's a secret they'll take to the grave.
I feel like Swedes they will not talk about what they voted for, right?
But what if you start by first telling everyone how much you make? Well, that leads to the next taboo topic.
This music.
Boasting is very rude in Sweden. You might be good at something or make a lot of money, but you don't talk about it. Jantelagen, the law of Jante, is a Swedish term for not believing that you're better than anyone else.
I don't see it. Like, it's somebody that's been around like a bunch of rich people, and also people, you know, all sorts of people, but some like a bunch of like rich people as well. They do like to talk about it. They really do like to talk about it.
Poppy syndrome, about cutting the head off any poppy that grows taller than the others. People might smile and appear impressed if you boast about something, but don't be surprised if you're...
Oh my god, what are you doing, sweetheart?
never invited back again to a party with that crowd. They won't tell it to your face, but you've just become a boasting pariah that people want to avoid.
No, people love boasting.
The next thing not to do is pretty simple. Don't assume that all of Scandinavia is the same. Norwegians and Swedes are different. Danes and Swedes are different. And Finnish people aren't even Scandinavian. They're part of the Nordics. Each country has their own customs, their own language, and their own set of values. Danish people are all drunk and lazy, for example.
True.
And Finnish people are depressed and speak monosyllabically.
True.
And Norwegians just live off their oil money and wander around in the mountains.
Exactly.
They don't do anything useful.
Exactly.
So the next time you're thinking of saying that Sweden is similar to Denmark, then you're implying
was
that we are
was
drunk
he
and
sarcastic,
lazy as
or
well.
was he just telling the
No,
truth?
but seriously, we see the differences in our cultures very, very clearly, even if you might
I think
not.
he was just telling the truth. Personally, I think he was right. Curling atop a mountain.
Have you ever been on an escalator in Sweden and noticed that you have a line of people behind you, sighing in frustration and looking annoyed? Chances are you've been standing on the left side of the escalator. Never stand on the left side. The left side is for walking and the right side is for standing still.
Is this not like a universal thing, though? Is this not a universal thing? But do you know what really bothers me about Sweden? Is that people can't say, like, people will not say, excuse me, or vent their frustrations in a healthy way. They will simply, Swedes will only like stand behind you and instead of saying excuse me, they will just go, or they will like roll their eyes, and it's so pathetic. And then when you like go away, they will be like, say something under their breath. It's so pathetic.
This is mostly a problem in bigger cities like Stockholm. I don't even know if they have escalators in smaller towns. If you stand on the left side, no one will shout at you, because Swedes dislike confrontation.
Exactly.
But if looks could kill, you'd be stabbed more times than Julius Caesar.
Exactly.
Here's a simple little rhyme to help you remember where to stand. Stand on the right, now that's all right. Stand on the left, and you're a stupid bastard. Do you speak like this most of the time? Then you're not really gonna fit in Sweden. Swedish people are pretty quiet, and we appreciate people speaking softly if they have to speak at all.
That's
Also,
how you know
having
when
your
you
phone on
find
speaker
Americans,
mode
because they
is
talk
just
so
completely
loud.
unacceptable anywhere. Just forget about that feature completely when you go to Sweden. Use your headphones like everyone else. However, Swedish people aren't always quiet. When a Swede is drunk,
I hate when people like speak on the headphone or speak on the speaker, and like face call when they're on the subway or in public. It's so annoying.
they will be as loud and obnoxious as humanly possible. I'm not saying that we Swedes are like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I'm not saying that we aren't. Do you enjoy a bit of personal space? Maybe a couple of decimeters or so? Well, Swedish people need at least a couple of meters at all times.
Yeah.
During COVID, everyone had to stand 2 meters apart, but no one really noticed the difference in Sweden.
Exactly.
Don't sit next to someone on the subway if there's an empty seat anywhere else in the car, and don't stand too close when standing in line. Otherwise, you'll make us poor Swedes extremely uncomfortable, and you'll come off as some sort of sociopath. Or possibly American. And whatever you do, don't start talking
By
to people
God.
when standing that close.
Imagine American.
That's just plain weird.
They hold the phone flat out in front of them, talking in speakerphone. Yeah, sucks.
Next is a short but
So
sweet
obnoxious.
one. Don't talk about the Finnish hockey team. Yes, the Finnish are pretty good at hockey. You don't have to rub it in.
I don't care
Sweden
about
has been
hockey.
neutral for a long time. There's one thing that makes Swedish people furious more than anything else. It's not murder. People die sometimes. It happens.
die
It's not talking
sometimes.
crap about Sweden. We do that ourselves anyway all the time. The worst thing you can do in Sweden is to cut in line. Standing in line is holy in Sweden. You must respect the queue and you cannot try to cut in line.
All this is true, but I think most people hate cutting in line, right? Most people people absolutely hate this. What's funny about Swedes, though, I think, is that they won't confront you. They won't confront you about it. They'll just go, oh, really? And they'll roll their eyes, because that's about as much as Swedes dare to do. That's about as much they dare to do, you know? Most people do. Yeah, I hate line cutters. Same. Dude, I waited for I waited for cotton candy for like over an hour, I think almost 2 hours. Because it was May. It was Första Maj. You need your cotton candy, you know. And well, there was a woman that cut in line and people got really mad at her. There was a lady that actually, a Swedish lady, it was surprising, a Swedish lady actually came up and she's like, who do you think you are? And she got so like shocked that she had to leave the line. It was interesting. That doesn't usually happen, you know?